Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I'm going to be sharing one of my favourite techniques, and that is the one sheet wonder. And normally we would take one sheet of decorated paper, pre-printed usually, and cut it up to make our cards. But today I'm going to share with you how I created my own decorative paper and to make these 3 cards. So this is going to be quite a long video, so I hope you bear with me. I chose to use this stamp set, Ranunculus Romance, to create my cards today because I really loved all the different eclectic designs and images as well as greetings. In fact, for these 3 cards I've used every single one of the stamps except this one here. The other product I'm going to be sharing with you is the Ephemera Pack. This is the, I've forgotten, but anyway, I've forgotten what it's called now. Oh, my expressions in ink. That I knew it would come to me. Ephemera Pack, where you get 5 sheets of these lovely die cuts, as well as sequins, and these are self-adhesive. So we're going to be featuring those. And my other two products that I'm going to be sharing with you is the Scalloped Contours dies. I love these ones. They've got these lovely rectangles, as well as a couple of dies here for cutting out the flowers with a coordinating stamp set. And then the time worn type embossing folder, and I just love this one. It literally is time worn. There's some type and then there's lots of sort of scuffing, and it really does give a lovely impression. So let's move on and create our one sheet wonder. We're going to start with a piece of cardstock that is 11 by 4 1/4. So it's basically half a sheet of cardstock. And I chose this size because it fitted all the 3 things that I wanted to do with it. And then I've got my colours. And while I stamp, I'll explain why I chose my colours. So I've got Coastal Cabana, Bermuda Bay, Fresh Freesia, and then Blackberry Bliss. So I'm going to start with my biggest stamps first. And for this, it's going to be this lovely one that's got the lines and the writing. And then this one, which is got the decorative band. Okay. So when you do this, you're going to stamp randomly. It's better if you just go with the flow and you don't try and put any design particularly. If you stamp over the corners and the edges, it looks far more realistic. Then I'm going to pop in some of the decorative band. And again, I'm going to go across corners, going to go down the middle. I'm going to put a little bit in here and maybe a little bit up there. So this is a start. I can always come back and add a little bit more later if I want to. Then I'm going to go with my next biggest stamp, which is the Ranunculus. And I'm going to be using Coastal Cabana for this one. So I promised I would explain how I came across my colour choices for this project. Oftentimes I start with my ribbon drawer. I look to see what ribbon there is, and then I will build up from there. So when I went to look, I had a very pretty sheer in Pool Party, and it's got a bit of a sparkle. Those who know me know I love a bit of sparkle. So that was my starting point. Well, when I looked at the cardstock and I looked at the ink, I felt it was just a weeny bit on the pale side. So I went ahead and pulled out the next sort of colour up, which is the Coastal Cabana. And that looked really good. And then I wanted something a darker shade. So then that's when the Bermuda Bay came out. And I'm going to use this smaller stamp for the Bermuda Bay. Just washed my stamps. There's a little bit of water on them. So then I'm starting to look and thinking, well, I quite like that combination, but I want a little bit more to it than that. And that's when I thought Blackberry Bliss. It is one of my favorite darker colors that's in their family. And I experimented a little bit and it went really quite well with the two sort of turquoisey blue colors. But it needed something else. So I spent a little bit of time thinking about what it would need. And that's when I came up with the Fresh Freesia, which is these pieces here. And that was my color combination. That's how I pulled together what I wanted to use. Now you can see that I am over stamping some of the images, and that's deliberate because I want the colors to be and the images to be random, because when I cut this up, I don't want to have to worry about things being in the right direction. I want to be able to cut it up and it's going to work for whatever cuts I do. And then my last two stamps that I'm going to use is this one, which is like when they cancel the stamps. And then this one, I'm not quite sure how to describe this one, but it's also like a frank stamp, I suppose. So I'm going to go in with the darkest of my color in the smallest stamps. It just worked that way nicely for me. The flowers look good in the bluey greens, and the smaller pieces look good in the darker. So I'm just, again, you can see, just randomly stamping. Now I can also, when I've cut my pieces up, if I've got a gap that doesn't sit well with me, I can always go back and fill that gap. So this isn't like do your stamping and then you're done. I can always go back. And you can see that I am over stamping other images. I've got a little bit off the edge there. And pop that there. And as I said earlier, I'm sort of rotating it round, so I've got them going in different directions. I can see I've got this little bit here that an empty bit there that I'm not very happy with. And maybe I'll just do one more. Right. So I'm going to leave it like that for the minute. As I say, I might come back and put a little bit of additional colour in afterwards. So that is my one sheet. I'm just going to get these out of the way so that I don't put my elbow in or get myself in any form of a mess. And now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to cut it into pieces for my card. Now you don't need to worry about jotting down or trying to remember these measurements, because if you follow the link beneath this video, it will take you to my blog, and there you'll find the recipe with the supplies and all the measurements. So the first piece I'm going to cut off of here is 5 inches. And then I'm going to turn this round and I'm going to cut it to 3 3/4 inches. So that's a piece for my first card there. Then I'm going to take my piece that's left and I'm going to cut 3 3/8 off. And so 3 3/8, if you look, all right, there's the 3, there's 3 1/2, there's 3 1/4, so 3 3/8 is halfway between the two. I know I hear people groan when I talk about 8ths, but it's so easy to do 8ths when you've got one of these trimming tools. So this piece I'm going to turn round 90 degrees, and I'm going to cut 3 1 1/4 slices off. And that's going to leave me with a little bit left over, which I could use or not, whatever however I feel about it. And that's my cutting. This piece here, I am going to use the die set I shared with you a moment ago. This is the one called the Scalloped Contour dies. And I'm using, I think, probably the third largest for this. So I'm using my mini. Love this one. You're going to use the white plate and then a clear plate, although I know it doesn't really look clear. This is a well-loved plate, but it still works perfectly. And I'm going to pop my piece of decorated card, then my die, and then I'm just going to pop that on the top and just crank through. There we go. And then while I've got my die machine, my cutting machine handy, I'm going to create one of my little labels. So this is the smallest scalloped rectangle in the set. So I'm just going to take a little piece of white card, and with the same sandwich that I've just had, I'm going to cut myself one of these labels. And then I can put my little machine away, and we don't need to worry about that again. All right, so bear with me. If you've never seen this, it folds up like this. It has a lovely small footprint. It fits on a shelf and knocks things down. And I just love my little mini. All right, so now we've got some room on the work surface. So I'm going to just pop that away so I don't lose it. So now I've got all my pieces. So now we're going to assemble the cards. The first one I'm going to do is, let me think, this one. So this one is the one that takes slightly longer. You can see all my little goldy bits in there. So we're going to start by taking the piece I just cut, and we're going to stamp the greeting on. Now normally I say stamp then cut, but fortunately this little greeting is smaller than my piece of card, so I can just line it up. And if I get my head in there, I apologize profusely. I will try my best not to. In fact, I'm going to put it here. If I'm off camera, I apologize. But there. Oh, there. So there's my little greeting there. All right. Now I've got a small piece of cardstock here that I've cut, that is going to be my layer. So we're going to put a little bit of adhesive. You can use your Stampin' Seal or whatever you prefer with your adhesive. If you watch me before, you'll know that I love my liquid glue because it gives me a little bit of time to move things around to get it all centered in my card. So that piece I'm going to pop up there. And then I'm going to get a card base. So this is the thick white cardstock, 11 by 4 1/4, and just scored in the middle. And I'm going to take my largest piece that of my paper that I cut, and we're going to put some adhesive on that, get it stuck down. Now you could just as easily do this with some pre-printed paper and create your card. What I do is I look at the pre-printed, look at the paper, look at the colors, pick 1 or 2 of them out, and then I choose my inks from that, or I choose my cardstock, maybe my ribbon, or like me, you can start with your ribbon and then create your decorative paper from there. So I'm putting some dimensionals on the back of this piece. Put those back where I can find them in a minute. And then I'm going to stick this down. Now I am not going to worry about this, whether this is upside down, sideways, or whatever, because I deliberately randomly stamped my images so there was no right or wrong side. Now we're going to go with the lovely die cut pieces. Now they're already cut. You can see that they are easing their way out of the paper here. And I'm actually going to use both of these elongated hexagons. So I've just gently eased that out, and just easing out the little pieces like that. You can see they come out so easily. If they're a little bit stubborn, just give them a tiny little wiggle and they'll come out. And then the little filling pieces. I'm sure that you could use these little filler pieces for something, but not today. As I say, that's being a bit stubborn, so I'm going to give it a little wiggle and out it comes. Now we're going to pop it on the card, and I'm going to use a little technique. I put some adhesive on my hand here. Now you need to be careful. If you are allergic to this type of adhesive, then please don't do this. Fortunately, I am not, so I can do it. So I'm just going to tap a little bit on various points on my die cut piece. Like that, and then I'm just going to position it. I guess I'm about halfway up from the bottom, but over to the left, and I'm just going to let it fall where it is. And then I'm going to take the other piece and I'm going to do the same thing. Just put some tiny little bit of adhesive on the sort of pointy bits there, and then I'm just going to pop it in the middle of that piece, like that. And then I'm just going to let that dry for a few moments. So there we have. I mean, that is so lovely and bright and sparkly. I just love that. Now we have our little greeting. So I'm just going to pop a couple of dimensionals on. And then we're going to find a couple more of those die cut pieces to stick on. So I'm going to take the 3. I'm sorry if this is blinding you. Let me turn it over. So if you wanted to, you could actually have white leaves. You don't have to have gold leaves if you had the right color combination. And then there's this one over here. This is what was in the middle of those hexagon pieces. So I'm just going to use a couple of glue dots to stick those into place. So I'm just going to tuck the underneath the label there, and I've got a little bit of glue dot that's all showing, so I'm going to tuck that in and pop that down like that. And then we're going to put a couple of these adhesive sequins that comes with the Ephemera Pack. Well, that one shot off, so we'll just gently ease the next one off. Hold on. I'll pick that up later. I'm sure I'll find it. But there's plenty in the pack, so if you two get a flyaway, you should be able to pick up. You should have plenty left to do the job. So I'm just going to put it where there's sort of a gap so that they can be seen. So there we have card number 1. Now on my first one, I did stamp inside with a ranunculus, and you can do that as well. You don't need me to show you that one. So there's card number 1. Then we're going to move on to the next card. And we're going to do this one. So I've got my pieces here. Now, one of the white pieces I embossed with the time-worn type that I was just telling you about, the embossing folder. And so that I already did that, rather than you watch me do all of that. And I'm going to attach a piece of my ribbon. As I said, this is the Pool Party Sheer, which is really pretty. It's got a little shimmer in it, giving me some bling. And then I like to stick mine down with sticky tape. I've got this fear that if someone opens the card from me, it falls apart. So we just make absolutely sure that it doesn't do that. And then I'm just going to give it a little bit of a burnish with my bone folder just to make sure that it doesn't fly off. Then I'm going to add some adhesive to the back. And attach it to my card base. Let that dry for a second. Then I've got my other piece of One Sheet Wonder, and I'm going to attach it down to, again, a Blackberry Biss layer. All the dimensions will be on my blog, so don't worry about trying to remember what I'm saying. And if I'm perfectly honest, I can't remember what size they are either at this time. I've got more important things to remember than the sizes of bits of card when I can just go back and check on my notes. So always remember that you can use the edges of your dimensionals. They're just as sticky as the ones in the middle. So I'm going to put 4 pieces, each in the corner, and then 1 in the middle. And we're going to attach this to the center of the card here. There we are. Do I like it that way? I think I like it that way. It doesn't matter. I just personally liked it that way. So there we've got the basic assembly. And now I'm going to get some of my decorative pieces. All right, so I'm going to have it white side up so it doesn't blind you. And as I say, I'm just going to give it a little tug and a little wiggle, and those pieces will come out. And I think I'm going to use, I think I'll use these other leaves here. So I've got a berry sprig and a leaf sprig. So we're going to use our glue dots again. And I'm going to line this up with my piece of ribbon there. And then this will stick, also will stick, because some of the glue dot is exposed there. And then I have my little bow of the same ribbon. It ties bows really well. I do have a video on how I tie my bows. And again, there will be a link to it on my blog, so you'll be able to see how I do that. So there's that bit. Now my little greeting is this one. I've done hello, and I've just stamped it on a 1/4 inch piece of white and then layered it onto a piece of Blackberry Bliss. I also have a video on how I create that, and I'll also put a link to that on my blog, so you'll be able to see how I do that. Now I do have a piece that I'm going to put inside. That's how you can write your greeting. I stamped it, you can see. I'll do that later on. And then out with our lovely sticky, a bit heavy-handed, our sticky sequins, and we're going to just dot a few around in the empty spaces like that. And there we have card number 2 done. And so we've got one more card to do, and that's this one. So this one, we're going to use the pieces that we cut that are 3 3/8 long and 1 1/4 inch wide. So my supplies I have ready. Now this again is a 11 by 4 1/4, and I've just scored it in the middle. But this time, instead of it being a tent card that away, I want it to be a landscape card that opens that away. So I just need to make sure that I remember that. Now this piece of card is what we're going to stick the 3 pieces down. Now what I want to do is I want to match up the pieces to make sure that they are, if you like, whole. Can you see that this piece matches up, this piece all match up? You can see if I bring it up, those are those pieces. So I'm gonna stick down the 2 end ones, giving me my margins, and my middle one I'm gonna stick down last. So again, I'm gonna put a little adhesive on there, and I'm going to pop this. I'm looking to see my margin top and bottom, and then I'm going to try and do much the same margin on the left hand side then, and twitch it round, because being a right-handed person, I find it easier to work with this on the left. I can see then how my margin is. So I'm looking to see my margin top and bottom, and then make sure my little margin, my border, is much the same at the side, and then we can go in with this piece, and I can just slide it into place with my liquid adhesive, and there we've got it there. So I'm going to go now with another piece of my ribbon, and that's going to go across, well, toward the top, I think is what I did on my original. So again, a little bit of tape. And just smoosh it down with the bone folder. Lovely. And Stampin' Dimensionals. So you can see these go a really long way when you use those edge pieces. This bit fell off, but it's not going to escape. So again, one in each corner and one in the middle. There. This time I'm going to pop this into the center. So you're going to hover, 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 hover. Take your pieces there. And then we're going back to our lovely ephemera pack. So this time I'm just going to take the very plain hexagon from the middle, and we're going to pop a couple of bits of dimensional, top and bottom, and I'm going to stick this on that sort of center panel there. And then I've got another of my greetings. I use the because greeting on this one, and I am going to use, where did I put my glue dots? There they are. I'm going to use a little glue dot, well, two actually, one on each end. Like that, and then stick it across there. And then I'm going to use another of the little pieces. Let's see, what shall I use this time? Looks like I used a piece that I used that one already somewhere. So hey, we don't have to be the same all the time. So I think I'm going to use this with the 3 leaves and the little berry. So again, a little wiggle, and it'll come out. And glue dots again. I don't know where we'd be without glue dots. And I'm going to stick that there. You can see that it's actually on the ribbon here. Then I'm going to get my little bow and stick that on. Well, ooh, nearly unraveled it. Thank you for your patience watching this. I know it was a bit on the long side, but I hope you think it's been worth it. I must admit, I really have enjoyed designing these particular cards. They've been great fun, and I hope you like the idea of a one-sheet wonder. Don't forget to go to my blog, and you will be able to see the details of this. It will also take you to my online store, where you can go ahead and buy the goodies so that you can make these as well. If you've enjoyed my video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you don't already subscribe, perhaps you would do that as well. Thank you very much for joining me today. Bye for now.